Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me for another of my wonderful interviews. In the studio today I have two rather marvellous gentlemen. Here we are, as you can see. We are going to be talking about a massive fraud that the councils have been performing. Now, you may have noticed that I've been talking a little bit about council tax recently. We're talking in particular about the Portsmouth City Council, the Fareham Borough Council and the Havant Borough Council, which are down here in the southeast of England, but you'll probably be aware that councils are in fact everywhere and they're all pretty much running the same schemes. So I would love to introduce to you, we have here on your screen on the right, Rob the Rat Catcher from Portsmouth and Hampshire. He is a peace officer, and his wingman and fire starter, Blakey. Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming along and being part of the video today. Now, you came to me because you say that 6,000 residents have been scammed, and you've got the evidence that the council tax has been collected fraudulently, and you have something like 1,047 pages of names and numbers of people who've been collected. Can you tell me, in your own words, what's been going on?
Surely. We received a summons from Portsmouth City Council dated the 20th of June 2023, and unfortunately for the Magistrates Courts in Portsmouth, they unredacted that information by mistake, but they also sent accompanying letters that I don't believe I should have been granted access to either, which showed that the magistrates in Portsmouth did not sign off the summonses that the council were sending until the 21st of June, which eliminated the summonses as such as fraudulent and not valid. And when we delved into the matter that a little bit further, we also found that the magistrates and judges within the Portsmouth Magistrates Court were seeing up to 6,000 summonses that were summoned by the council in under 3 hours.
So hang on a minute. You're saying that a magistrates court is seeing a vast number of people. I mean, how is that possible?
It's not possible, and that's the whole point and the reason why we're here today. Because when you are summoned by Portsmouth City Council, on the paperwork it clearly states at the bottom of the same summons, which is not issued by the Magistrates Court, that you do not have to attend court. So we found that particularly odd and strange, so we looked into it. And when we attended court on the 12th of July of 2023, members of the council were there talking people out of attending court, even though they had been summoned.
This is so hang on, I'm just going to stop you there. So firstly, they've been summoned not by the court.
Yeah.
They've been summoned by the council, who do not have the right to do that.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate, and we can prove it, every word that we are saying here today.
And so on the summons it says you're summoned, which most people would assume that means you have to go.
Yep. And
then at the bottom it's sort of confusing the issue because it says you do not have to attend.
Yeah, and when you phone the City Council help desk to clarify the matter, they further confirm by their answering service that if summoned, you do not have to attend.
So presumably then, people thought, well, I'm busy, I don't need to attend, so I won't attend. And what happens then if they don't attend?
So on the day that we found, we attended, and the council tried to talk us out of attending. And they were quite successful on that day because of the 13 people or so that did attend, only 3 remained.
So what, out of 6,000 residents, only 3 actually attended?
No, there was 13 there on the day, and the council talked 10 of the 13
10 of them
out to leaving the premises or leaving the court before the court was actually heard.
That's incredible.
It's not only incredible, it's fraudulent.
Well, it is. Yes, no, it's fraudulent. So people clearly took that they didn't need to attend. So what happened to those people? They didn't attend. Then the case presumably went ahead, and they were clobbered, were they?
Oh, absolutely, they were clobbered. The ones that didn't attend were found liable for the council tax that the council requested, and the judges, for good measure, decided that they were going to add on £125 court costs that the council said that they incurred per person, and we worked it out at £750,000 in liability orders alone that the council made in under an hour. And we also worked it out that the liability orders themselves totalled somewhere in the region of £12 million for one day's work.
It's good work if you can get it, if it was legal or lawful.
Yeah.
But of course, it isn't lawful, and their own system says that they're supposed to go to a court and that you're supposed to be summoned by the court. Presumably, each of those 6,000 residents could, if they wanted, have attended to their own case, but they couldn't because they'd only be there seconds, because they seemed to be a rubber stamping system.
I think if you divide 6,000 into 3 hours, you'd be lucky if it was a second each. I haven't done the calculation, but I don't think it's a second per person.
Well, yes, my maths was never very good, but it's a very slim amount of time that you couldn't possibly have anyone listen to your case or your circumstances or any reason why you couldn't. Yeah.
Well, it's 180 hours divided by 6,000 people. I don't know if anyone at home can do the calculation, but it must be minuscule.
Yes, so it's a complete absurdity.
Oh, it's an absolute absurdity, but the judges defend them case because they pull out case law and say that they're allowed to do bulk orders, but I think the principle and the spirit of the bulk order principle has been abused.
So what can happen then? We've heard this sort of case, not in this massive scale,
yeah,
but we've heard of people who've had this where 2 or 3 or 4 or small numbers have gone. But 6,000 residents in 3 hours, I mean, that is just utterly absurd. So what do you do to rectify this other than, talking about it? What can we do?
Well, personally, for my circumstances, I have refused to pay the council tax, and I've also refused to pay any liability orders that the court, so-called in inverted brackets, court, awarded, because it's a fake court with a fake judge who I believe is not working under his oath, or working, in my opinion, under the guise of the HMCTS. I don't think he's doing that either. I think he's doing it off his own back. And I also believe, reasonably, that he's being paid by the council to be there. So he is a genuine judge, because you can look him up. And there's more than one judge involved. There's 3 magistrates that we know of, and 2 district judges that we now have complained about. So my personal opinion is I will not pay into a system that's A, funding terrorism, and B, fraud in the most massive scale that I've heard of so far in the UK. But I do have another case, as you know, as we discussed, that's coming up.
So 6,000 residents, you've got on your phone, now this is something else, the data protection. You've got a list of all those residents, which you shouldn't ordinarily have. They shouldn't have sent that to you, should they?
No, under no circumstances should they have sent me that. But they did, unfortunately for them. And not only did they do that, they sent me 2 conversations, one between the council and one between the magistrate's legal administrator, saying that on the 20th of June, can we send these 6 summonses, or do we have to wait until tomorrow? And the council didn't wait for the magistrate to respond, or the legal team in the magistrate's office to grant them permission. So they just sent them on the 20th of June, which it's not the council's remit to send out any summonses, because they are not liable or legally bound to do so, or legally entitled to do so. And the fact that the magistrates can grant 6,000 summonses just by the swift of a pen is astounding beyond belief.
You've got some audio as well, I believe, on your phone that we're going to play in, which I can't remember what it is.
It's Portsmouth City Council,
yeah,
and it's their answering service. And when you phone to query the actual liability or the summons, they tell you on their answering service that you do not or are not required to attend court.
So this whole thing about not requiring to attend and yet you've been summoned, if it was a straight summons from the court, would you be required to attend ordinarily?
In normal circumstances, if the court itself wasn't fraudulent, the answer would be yes. But when we looked into the whole process, the summonses are fake, the courts are fake, the judges are fake, and the liability orders are fake. And when you deep even further, you find that the councils are corporations, and they turn out to be fake also, because they don't have the jurisdiction or the authority to summons you for council tax, because they're corporations and you don't enter a contract with the council. No one has.
I mean, so this is very big, isn't it? I mean,
It's massive.
you've just listed everything about this is fake, and this fakery has been going on since 1972, has it not?
1972, the Companies Act, Section 2, paragraph 1, 2, 3, states that all councils are corporations.
And you can look this up.
And you can look it up, it's the Companies Act of 1972, Section 2, 1, 2, 3.
We were going to actually find that before we started recording, but I'll put the link in so you can just look at it yourself.
Yeah, I do have a copy of it here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, if that's any of any use.
Not that you can read it, but I'll put the link on the in the description so you can just actually see. But it does say the Local Government Act 1972 for every what does that say? Fenian Metropolitan County.
Yeah.
There shall be a council consisting of a chairman and councillors, and the council shall have all the functions as invested in them by this act or otherwise. Where does it actually say that?
Section 3, it tells you at the very last.
At the very last bit. Each council mentioned in the subsections 1 and 2, which is just above, shall be a body corporate by the name of the county council or the district council, as the case may be, with the addition of the name of the particular council, county or district, which in and of that sentence itself tells you body corporate, a corporation, a for-profit business, which is there to collect money, which is what they are doing. Let's play that audio. So somebody's got the summons, and they're thinking, here it is, and they're going, I don't have to, I know that sounds a bit
it doesn't seem unrealistic.
Let's ring them up and see what they say. And so this is what they say.
Due to the high number of letters that have recently been issued, we are experiencing a high number of calls and longer wait times. If you have received a court summons, please be aware that you do not need to attend court. Please see the enclosed paperwork for guidance. If you are calling to make a payment, you can do so online or by using our 24-hour payment line as detailed on the back of your bill.
So,
if you are unable to bring your account up to date, you can email localtaxation@portsmouthcc.gov.uk detailing your current circumstances and include a repayment proposal.
So they're still trying to get you to pay.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you're confused. It's not really, no, you don't have to attend. But if you want to pay anyway, whatever it is that you were coming to court for. So it's that sort of last chance that they're preying on you.
Oh, absolutely.
On the last chance saloon at your payout.
At the end of the day, without council tax, the councils will, across the UK, collapse, because they are not a body that you should be dealing with, because they have no legislation behind it. And also in the fact that they're being devious beyond belief and fraudulent to beyond belief as well.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay council tax. It's not a payment that you have to make in law.
Now we're often told that by those people who say you should pay, that of course this is part of legislation, and they'll often point to the
1992 Government Finance Act.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's there. That is your right. But if you're dealing with a corporation, you're dealing in commerce, and you're dealing in contracts, and contract law means that the two parties must come together. Agree on the terms and conditions of that contract, and there should be two signatures. And it should be there should be nothing that's non-disclosed. Everything should be open and transparent.
Yeah.
That's not happening, is it?
It's never happened.
It's never happened.
No. It's never happened. I don't know one person that's ever alive who's ever signed a contract with any council in the UK.
No. Well, I know I haven't. And yet, if you challenge that, the councils will not just put their hands up and say, "Oh yeah, no, sorry, mate, we got that wrong." They just double down, don't they? And they're putting a lot of people through a lot of worry and stress, particularly with these fake summons.
Yeah. I think the offshot to what they are doing is the fact that they, A, put you in debt, then they, B, cheekily enough, send bailiffs to your house. And if that fails, they then get you a CCJ, which, when you start off with a fraudulent process, anything that follows on from that is therefore also fraudulent. So the amount of people in this country that have got CCJs, they're all fraudulent in connection to council tax. Anyone that's had a bailiff at their door in connection with council tax, all fraudulent. Anyone that's had their car clamped and removed and sold, all fraudulent. Any expenses that you've incurred as a CCJ, all fraudulent. The sums of money involved in this situation are uncalculable. It's billions, if not trillions.
Yeah, I mean it's a frightening thing, and people, of course, are so easily intimidated by the paperwork, and then, of course, as you say, by the bailiffs. And what do the bailiffs themselves? Did they believe they're doing the right thing, or do they think that do they know that it's a scam, but they can get away with it?
The bailiffs know it's a scam. They know they're turning up to people's residence without a warrant, and they know that the warrant is not signed. Now, warrants of entry or warrants of possession have to be authorised by a court that's applied due diligence to that request, and they don't do it. Right. It's a blanket summons, it's a blanket warrant, it's a blanket process that the bailiffs go through, and they use all sorts of tactics and intimidation because they get a 15% cut on everything that they collect.
Wow. So what should people do if they have people coming to their house, bailiffs, to take away their car or to try and take possessions to the value of whatever it is that they supposedly own?
So I'm recommending that members of the War and Peace Network, which is an internet self-help group, but we also help people who are in need. We have been issuing trespass notices for the back garden, the back gate, the back door, the front gate, and it removes their implied rights of access to step onto your property. Now, bailiffs have what's called a £10,000 bond, and that bond can be challenged and it can be claimed against. And there's a form called an EAC2 form, which you can get off the YouGov website, and any bailiff that acts out with the Bailiff Code of Practice can be sued civilly in a county court or the county court which issued their licence, and they can have their licence removed, and they can also pay you compensation, not only for the trespass but for the alarm and distress that they cause.
And can we, can those 6,000 residents who, the evidence that you've got, can they now sue the council for fraudulent money, basically taking of their stealing?
They can sue the Magistrates Court for the data breach, and then they can take civil action as a group or individually against the council for the fraud that's been committed against them. But the problem that we have been having is Hampshire police, who are not assisting in this matter. In fact, they're being deliberately obstructive in this matter because they will not investigate their paymasters. But at the end of the day, the paymasters are the people, because it's the people's money that the council get, and it's the people's money that the police officers get at the end of the day, and they should be working for the people, not swearing an oath to the king.
And we do have that problem that the police now are not quite how we think of them as a public body, that they indeed themselves are another corporation, another business.
Indeed they are, and they can all be found on the Dun and Bradstreet search if you do searches on not Companies House, because they were not that obvious or that blatant. Councils are obviously corporations, and they can also be found on Dun and Bradstreet. Yeah, you are dealing with corporations and the police who tender annually to police the area which they are currently based, and it's a tender which is also fraudulent because there is no competition.
So, I mean, this is barking. We have well, as I've said many times now, that we live in corporate Britain, a corporation that is there just to try and extract money from each and every one of us.
Yep.
And it's not as we imagine. So everything is. So no wonder they won't come and, if you've got a burglary or a break-in or these sort of things that happen,
It's
the
almost
police
legalised racketeering, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. The police they see you as a cash cow because they'll rather give you a fine than give you assistance.
Yes.
The council see you as a cash cow because they would rather take you through a fake court process and demand money with menaces because they're sending thugs to your house, and that's what some bailiffs are, not all, but some bailiffs are absolute thugs. They're thugs, and that's all that's the only word you can describe some of them. Not all of them, but some of them are absolute thugs.
Do you think that some of the people who work for the council themselves, even in the department of the council tax, do they know what they are actually perpetrating? That do they know that they are A, working for a corporation, or that makes any slightest difference, and B, that they're working fraud, or they are complicit, I suppose the word I'm looking for is in fraud?
Yeah, the simple answer is the council staff in the taxation office are 100% fully aware of what they're doing because we have spent the past 6 months making sure that they're aware. We have taken away any deniability of any council staff worker, especially the taxation office. And the interesting thing about Portsmouth City Council in particular, because that's the region that we work in, it's also where we've been studying and collecting data for the past 6 months. There is a lady called Sharon Allen. Now, she's the taxation officer for the Portsmouth City Council Taxation Office. Now, her name's Sharon Allen, and there's also an S. Allen who works for Portsmouth Magistrates Court. Now, on a Freedom of Information request that I did in regards to S. Allen or Sharon Allen, I was told that S. Allen is an employee of the Magistrates Court and that she was present on the 12th of July when I was in court. Now, I personally know Sharon Allen from Portsmouth City Council, and the only S. Allen or Sharon Allen that I could see in the 12th of July was the one that I know for a fact is the taxation officer.
Right.
So we reasonably believe that she's wearing two hats. We think she's working for the council and also working for the Magistrates Court.
Which presumably is not right.
Oh, absolutely. It's 100% fraudulent and it's a criminal act because she's swearing an oath on the Bible when she goes into court to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And she knows fine well that she's telling lies.
So, what can people do? What can people do across the board? They hear of the fraud, they understand, they can go to your website, which, by the way, is here, and they can read about it. And if I scroll up to the top, you'll even see some dashing young man there as well. But it is pompeyhood.info. I'll leave the link in the description. And you can read about the important data breach. You can see the blogs below, the 600 names of... Well, you can't actually obviously see the 600 names because that would be you doing data breach.
Well, actually wouldn't, because I'm not a corporation or a company.
Oh, right, fair enough.
So I could in theory release the information, but I'm not going to.
No. And also you can go back, and you've got videos obviously on the website. You can talk. You've got how the administrative courts are unlawful. And I spoke about this, Halsbury's Law, on the channel. And I think you said you have a piece of video which you were exposing of your time in court at the courthouse or something?
We video every encounter that we do, whether it's in court Not particularly in the courtroom, but in the foyer and in the council offices and outside the council. And we're now in a position where the Magistrates Court will not enter into any dialogue with us, and neither will the Portsmouth City Council. In fact, they've went to the extent of sending me 2 legal letters stating that I am not allowed in a publicly accessible building, that I am not to attend a publicly accessible building without their written prior permission, and that I cannot video record in a public area, and that I cannot interview or video anything within the council premises, which is breaking my basic human rights. And the other thing that's interesting in the 2 letters that they sent me, there were no names on it.
No
and
names.
There was no signatures on it.
And that's a very common thing, isn't it? That you'll get stuff from just the title of somebody, because they're corporations. These titles are just bits of paper, really. That's not so. Unless you've actually got the name of somebody, you can't
hold them liable.
Yeah.
And Portsmouth Police or Hampshire Police are world champions at it, because they'll send you a non-returnable email with no name on it, stating that you can't do A, B, or C, or they won't do A, B, and C, and you've got no redress because you don't know who you're dealing with.
So, come April, we'll all get the old, on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, the comedy bill, as I like to refer to it now, the council tax bill. We've got a few months in which people could prepare themselves, and this is just a suggestion, and I know that you said you were thinking along the same lines. And I think, well, if you're entering into fraud, and this is all fraud, nobody wants to do things against the law knowingly. Now you've revealed to us that this is fraud. Anybody paying the council tax would be acting fraudulently.
Yes, and not only that, they'd be aiding and abetting in a fraudulent act. And the police in particular, not only they're aiding and abetting, but they're actually perverting the course of justice. And they're acting in malfeasance and non-feasance in public office. So any police officer who involves themselves on any council tax matter, including assisting bailiffs, which the police do on a daily basis across the whole of the United Kingdom, they should be held liable for their actions.
So, would you recommend people not paying their council tax?
For me personally, I will never pay it, and I'll never pay it again. In fact, I'm going to try and attempt to get my payments back from the time that I had my own first home, which is at the age of 21. So I think the council from 1972 until currently, which is 51 years, they've got a lot of money to pay back, and I don't know how they're going to do it.
And what about you, Blakey?
Yeah, on the same lines. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll hold back and not paying. Plus, they are committing terrorism. So we supporting terrorism as well. So on that grounds alone, and if you know you're supporting terrorism, then it's against the law. And anybody asking you to pay it, once you've informed them you believe terrorism is being performed, then it's them that are committing the crime. Then not asking you for the money. So that's.
I know we've had Chris Coverdale on the show.
Exactly.
Chris Coverdale, perfect.
Spoken about all of this, that actually, you're aiding and abetting, and you know. So that's the problem. Of course, councils, the way they operate, they operate like thugs. They send you these fake court summonses, which is on their own paper. They're not even registered with the court at the time. And people get very frightened, particularly perhaps the older generation, people who are not so much awake. They want to do the right thing. They think they're doing the right thing. And then, sometimes it's a leap of faith to think that your local council would be quite so mean and nasty to do all of this. But the truth is, it is a fraud. And it is happening. And if you're paying it, you're going to do it. So in 5 months' time, we've got time to sort of build a community of people, to build confidence, and
a replacement system.
Because the other thing is that we saw that in Birmingham. Councils are going bankrupt. They're near to the knuckle, and if people were setting up now a parallel council, like a shadow council, but a parallel is a better word than shadow, so that the moment a council declares itself bankrupt,
Yeah.
they could step in and
Yeah.
say, that's fine, don't worry, you haven't got to worry about a thing,
Yeah.
we'll take over. And of course, they would take over on behalf of the people,
Yeah.
rather than, of course, the corporation,
Yeah.
which is working principally in hand with the government.
So no one's denying the fact that the council require funds, but they don't require the sums of money that they're collecting, because it's not going to where it's supposed to go.
It doesn't even go to them directly, does it? It goes to
It goes to the central pot and the
Yeah.
central government, and then it's redistributed. Now that's not right, because when you're doing any charitable event locally, the money stays there.
Yes.
And if you're a resident of Hampshire, why should you pay for a resident in Wiltshire? And why should you pay as a resident of Wiltshire for a person in Hampshire?
Yeah.
It should surely stay there for the people, by the people.
Well,
And-
you're going to have different things, such as if you're living on the sea, you might have sea defences.
Yeah.
And if you're living inland, you probably won't have those sea defences.
Yeah.
And if you're living by rivers, or you have more rivers than normal, they might flood. So the pool of money that you need is going to be very different in different parts of the country.
Absolutely.
And why should a central office be handing that? Only if you need more money, because the local pot has just, for whatever reason, in an emergency, can't afford it.
Yeah.
Then I can see there would be a need for it.
But when you look back at the large council tax scandal, when they were all found to have been filing away monies into offshore accounts, and they were all caught.
Yes.
Now, if they can funnel off money into offshore accounts, why aren't they spending it on the people whose money it is? It's a strange scenario where you're actually being fraudulently having money taken, then they're filing it and squirreling it away in some offshore account, and then they don't give it to the people. There are people now in this country, it's like a third world country we're living in, and it shouldn't be the way, because I have paid taxes and national insurance and council tax since I was young, and I never paid into a system that I expected to keep everyone else.
No.
The National Health Service is not a health service for the world. It's a national health service. It's for the people, by the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the principle.
That's the principle
But
behind
we
it.
have seen how it has suddenly become, as you say, a world. Anybody who can get here service.
Yeah, but if they can file away or squirrel away funds, that's funds that they could be spending on the people who are in need.
Yes.
It's not for squirreling away.
No.
It's for looking after the people that have paid in. And if you've paid in, you're entitled to get back out.
And also, of course, the councils, along with the government, are making decisions for things that you may or may not want. Cameras and plant pots barring your way,
Yeah.
preventing you from perhaps travelling many times across the town because
Yeah.
they want to turn it into these so-called low traffic zones or 15-minute cities and all of these sort of things. And surely these decisions should be being made by the people in their towns and villages rather than head office or, dare I say, some unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats in think tanks in Switzerland.
In an ideal world, that would be a perfect scenario, but unfortunately what we have uncovered is fraudulent behaviour on behalf of Portsmouth City Council. Now, they're all fully aware of what they're doing, and they're still prepared to carry on because they know, A, they have the backing of the police, and B, they know they've got the backing of the fraudulent courts, fraudulent judges, fraudulent magistrates. So they know they're protected, so they're going to continue along the same lines as they have done for years, and it's not good enough.
Do they know that you have all this information on them?
100% they do, yes. And if I was them, I wouldn't be sleeping at night.
Do you think they are?
I think they think they're protected. That's what I think. I think they're protected, and they are protected.
So-
Hampshire police are protecting them. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Scott Chilton should hang his hat up and go and work somewhere else, go and wash cars for a living, because his job that he's currently in, he's no good at it.
But then, I mean, we can say the same thing for the police then, because the police are corporations. They're not actually there serving for the constables are.
Yep.
The police take different oaths, do
Yep.
they not?
When you look at the oath that they now take, it's to the king. It's not to the people.
Right.
And when you try to hold them accountable, they just close doors, close ranks, and then they have a Masonic Lodge meeting one Friday night, and then they all decide what's the best course of action for that. And I do have information that I have sent to Hampshire Police, which they have not rebutted, claiming that they are Freemasons, and they won't rebut it. They won't do anything in regards to it. They just ignore us, and they hope that we'll go away, and we're not going away.
You're not going away. Well, I do hope that this has been fascinating, and that people will take note, and slowly by bringing these sort of stories to you, because it is a leap of faith that people do find it hard to believe that a fraud goes on by people they've supposedly looked up to, who are supposed to be there for them, and that this can go on in such huge numbers. And yet we know the government create these sort of things because the boxes get opened some 30 or 50 years down the line, don't they? And then you'll suddenly find out that Margaret Thatcher did this, or whichever Prime Minister did this, or this councillor did that. Stuff has been hidden for so many years. And if they did it then, my argument is, why would we not suppose that they are not doing it now? So clearly this goes on. But you're blowing the lid, and this is fantastic. And we need more people to blow the lid when they see something fraudulent.
Yeah, we as a group of individuals have been writing to the 6,000 people, but it's a bit of a mammoth task.
Yes,
Having said that, we have delivered approximately 5,000 of the 6,000 letters, and we have been doing that on our own personal time, at our own personal expense and our own personal cost. So the people on the list should fully be aware within the next 2 to 3 weeks that they are on the list, and if they are on the list, I suggest they take action.
And they should have been informed by Port of...
they should have been. The Magistrates Court are legally bound to tell them, and they're not doing it.
They're not doing it?
No, they're not doing it.
Crikey.
So, and the ICO are fully aware. I made the ICO aware on the 3rd of September. I have all that paperwork in my file.
So there's a cover-up again?
So, well, I don't know what's going on, because the ICO can take up to 6 months to a year to get in touch. But on a fraud of this scale, I would have liked to have thought that they might have escalated it a bit more. But they have a legal requirement, Portsmouth Magistrates Court, as you would think magistrates would know this, because they're lawful, allegedly, that they have got to inform the people that their data has been breached, and they will not do it because they know the consequences. The courts will close, as will Portsmouth City Council. It will close because they cannot repay the money that they've taken fraudulently.
And I'm guessing that the local papers and the mainstream media are not terribly interested in this story, for whatever reason?
The reason's obvious, because the only person that we could get to run this story is yourself, because you're obviously a man of honour.
Well, thank you very much. Well, watch this space, really. Go and check out pompeyhood.info, and we'll keep you updated, if you don't mind keeping me updated on all of this.
Yep.
And we will bring you more as it happens. But in the meantime, if you're thinking about whether to pay or not pay the council tax, then what we do need to do is, over the next few months, is to get ourselves into groups, to keep the confidence, to understand the system, to explore the fraud, so you feel that you know how to deal with it when somebody comes knocking on your door, and whether you have to answer any of the questions and all the things that goes with it, or if you get a summons, to identify that as being on council paper or the court paper, or what you can do, because you presumably can ring the court and actually say, I've got this, is this case even in existence?
And they will confirm it's not.
And
the first thing to do if a bailiff comes to your door is ask to see his identification card. Now, a flash of your identification card is not showing it. They must be able to show the people, not necessarily on camera, but to sue that individual for trespass on your property, you need his name in full, or her name in full, to check the bailiff register, to then take them through civil court. It's easily done, it's an easy process, and bailiffs must realise that they cannot break the law. They've got a code of practice to follow, and they need to start following it.
Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've got something out of this. This has been really interesting. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. Gentlemen, Rob, the rat catcher, and Blakey, wingman and fire starter, What sort of fires do you start?
I just come up with ideas in the middle of the night. He gets a phone call, and then we go from there usually.
Yeah, I wish he would stop the 3 o'clock. The 3 o'clock calls are not my favourite.
I've been thinking, and he thinks I'm not again.
Well, I can tell you, to get on the show, they did bribe me with cake, so so that was quite fun. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I hope
fantastic.
people take something from it,
Yeah.
and realise that coming up to Christmas, council tax is not a tax.
It's not a tax. I will be back again with more interviews and more monologues, but in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. From all of us here, take care and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.